I used to believe the harder I worked, the more I deserved. But what if that's not true? Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to season 3 of A Talk with G. This season, I want to invite you guys to join me where we are unlearning what the world, what society has taught us to be true and come home to a softer, wiser, and more aligned version of ourselves. Today, I'm opening up about something that is very deep, and maybe it's the connection and the bridge that we all need. It is a pattern that we are all trapped in, especially those of us who grew up with trauma, scarcity, or in environments where our worth was tied to output. Today's episode is titled Why I Stopped Working So Hard to Receive More. Because, in all honesty, when I stopped overexerting myself, everything changed for me. This episode is not just a story. So, guys, don't think I'm going to go into like this lifelong story. It's an invitation, a rebellion, a remembrance. So, I invite you to take a deep breath, settle in, and let's get comfy together. Now, let's take it back to the roots because we don't just start overworking randomly out of one day. No, we are trained to do so. I want you guys to take a moment and think about it. When were you rewarded most as a child? Was it when you rested or played or explored? No, most likely not. Was it really when you produced something, got good grades, cleaned your room, impressed the adults? For many of us, love and approval came with conditions. Not because it was just that's how it was. It was because they didn't know better. So they brought that into us. You see, in immigrant households, you might have heard, might not have, work twice as hard for half as much. That was a survival truth passed down with loved, but stepped and seeped in scarcity because they didn't know any better. And that's the start of generational trauma because it was whispering to them worth equals productivity. And then they passed it to us and we held it. Even our school systems reinforced it in a sense. They praised us for perfection, not for rest, punishment for mistakes, and rarely rewarded for slowing down. So, in the back of our minds, we were thinking if I'm not working, I'm lazy. If I slow down, I'll fall behind. And that caused this bubble of conditional self worth, the belief that our value was tied to performance. And it begins in the nervous system. Before it becomes a lifestyle, before you know it, overworking became the only way to feel safe. And I'm pretty sure some of you feel the same way as I do. Now, I'm going to tell you guys about when my moment shift. And it's not like this fun, exciting, oh my God, light bulb moment. No, I burnt out. Not your casual, I need a weekend off, I need a mini vacation. No, no, no. I burnt out to where my body was waving multiple white flags and I ignored it. I didn't listen to it. I started feeling even resentful was the right word. But with the resentment came sickness. I woke up one morning and dreaded going to the job that I once loved because I felt heavy. I felt joyless. My nights were restless. My anxiety flared up. My psoriasis flared up. Insomnia took over. And with all of those I just said, that was my body screaming for help. Even my digestion rebelled against me. My body was top of a mountain saying, stop what you're doing. You're overdoing it. And because I was still believing I had to produce X, Y, and Z to be worthy of anything, I ended up in the hospital. And it's not going to be like, I'm not getting into that with you guys. But it wasn't the fatigue that stopped me. It wasn't the fact that I'm in the hospital that stopped me. It was the moment when I sat there in quiet because you have nothing else to do in a hospital, when the thought came to me, who am I if I'm not achieving? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. My heart started to panic. My anxiety, if you've ever experienced it, which I hope none of you have, but if you've been around someone, it started to beat so fast that I had to figure out how to get out of the hospital. And then I started to question, if I don't earn, do I even deserve this break? And that was the loudest thing I could have heard in one of probably the most busiest places you could be, to realize my self-worth was fused with productivity. That slowing down, sitting in a hospital bed, felt like I was disappearing. I was in there no more than a couple of hours, and that hit me like that. That is when I'm like, wait, I am worried about what I'm producing sitting from this bed. And it clicked to me. I had this big, shiny light above me, realizing something had to change because that was not okay. Now, I want to talk about trauma and our nervous system. It seems like I'm jumping, but I'm not, because I promise you it all connects. If you've ever been in survival mode, your body learns hypervigilance, constantly scanning for danger, always in fight or flight mode. So, overworking becomes a form of self protection. In freeze mode, procrastination is mislabeled for laziness. You're not lazy. You're just you're unregulated. Oh my God, I had a space moment. And we, as society, confuse rest with danger. Maybe because our history, safety only came while working. It's not a mindset trick. It's not only a mindset trick. It's biological. Our nervous system must feel safe to receive. Until we start feeling safe in resting, slowness, our body will push and rush and hustle to stay alive. You, have you ever gone for a walk and you're constantly feeling like you have to look over your shoulder? That's not being restful. That's not taking it easy, or you're always in a rush to get to the next destination. That's deregulation. Your body is in flight and fight because, one, it feels like it's running out of time. And two, if you're looking over your shoulder, you don't genuinely feel safe wherever you're going. And with that, your body starts to hold on to, if I am not moving, if I'm not busy, if I'm not in task, if I'm not going somewhere, it starts to ramble. And then survival mode takes over. And you just don't know when to stop. So here is the shift. Instead of focusing on what I was short for in the hospital, or why I couldn't be at work, or what was I going to do if somebody needed me, or if the paper wasn't handed in, or 99 other things, I started focusing on receiving, not forcing. Instead of trying to get out of there and force my way and say I was fine, I stopped and I took that moment to receive the quietness. Yes, it was a hospital, but it was quiet. I didn't know the person next to me. We're all in there for something different. Pulled my curtain and took a moment. Instead of pushing to be out and, I don't know, work, I started realizing my body was calming down. And instead of feeling like I had to prove that I could finish all my reports and still sit in a hospital room, I stopped. Because in a moment's time, you could be replaced. Your nervous system needs that luxury of softness. And it was in that moment that I returned to my divine feminine nature. And I'm not saying this is just for females. This is for everyone. You see, the archetype of a queen magnetizes on stillness, not grind. And that goes for our males too. If you guys are always rushing and trying to provide and not taking a minute to sit down and just stay quiet, you're always in overdrive. Sacred stillness becomes a ground for ideas and blessings. Have you ever just sit down, not watching TV, not drinking something, not eating, like just sit in stillness and think about like how fortunate you are to sit in that quietness? You see, the paradox is you receive more when you stop reaching. Sounds kind of tricky, right? It's like wait, what? How am I receiving if I'm not reaching? Because you're giving your body a chance to say, hey, I'm sacred. I deserve to slow down just as much as I deserve to work. No one's saying don't work, but moderation, consistency. If you're giving 8 hours of work or 6 hours of work, make sure you're giving yourself 8 hours of rest or 6 hours of rest, of 2 hours of quiet time, not just your sleep time, actual time to wind down to get to that position. The deepest wound, I think I'm still healing, to be quite honest, is if I didn't suffer for it, I didn't deserve it. What does that mean? I just told you I was in the hospital and I realized all this. I still, realizing all that, was unsure coming out. Do I even deserve rest? Do I have to end up in the hospital for rest? No. You see, I felt like I had to prove my worth to get the money I was receiving from work because money without exhaustion felt uncomfortable. Praises without perfection felt unfamiliar. And even love without proving felt actually quite unbelievable to achieve. It took me, and it's still working, a long time to reprogram my inner child to believe that she was worthy without performance. Yes, I used affirmations. It's safe to receive. My rest creates space for miracles. I'm already enough. But saying that didn't create that bridge. It didn't give me the great, you said the affirmations. No, absolutely not. I had to really believe it. I had to believe I was worthy without production. I had to believe I deserve to rest. I deserve to have a lazy afternoon and do absolutely nothing because truth was I deserve it. If I am producing 8 hours of work in 4 hours, that's my luckiness that I can do so. If you are able to finish your work ahead of time, why do you have to pick up someone else's workload? They're probably leaving their workload so you pick it up so they get rest. And sometimes that's not the case, but why did you feel like you had to work so hard for that? Hey, thank you. No, thank yourself. Take a minute. Sit back. Enjoy the quietness. And with that, that is how I start to rebuild my life from the ground up. In business, I know it sounds crazy. When you're your own business owner, when you work for someone, you have to constantly working to produce and make sure things are good. But what I learned in my own business was less output was more alignment. Passive income streams, saying no to the urgency of pleasing a client, prioritizing deep work over busy work. So prior to the podcast that I started and my coaching, I was doing a whole different business and I felt like I had to take on orders and produce in 2 days. I'm not Amazon. Love Amazon. I don't have 2 day shipping. And that's how I feel like we all need to understand. You see, energetically, I was in this rush mode. I wasn't producing my best work. I was trying to please more people than I could. And when I started my coaching business, I was doing the same. I had such an open schedule. My evenings were open because my days were still filled with my day job. But my evenings were open till like late at night. And then I realized energetically, holding that vibration of rush and worry was what I was calling in from my clients, and scarcity. And when I switched and held the vibration of sufficiency, gratitude for what I was working with, stop the chase to catch up version, that's when I started to realize the more I relaxed, the more the universe responded. The less I accepted busy work, faster clients, more pace, rushing from one to another to produce this, so that the minute I said no, that's not the energy I no longer want, I am allowed to receive without working to that extreme wall point. I was able to rest. I'm still learning. We all are always learning. But at that moment, I hit like, ta da, I could still produce my podcast, meet my clients, have my day job, take care of my kid and my mother, and still devote time to rest before bed. And then that doesn't mean I'm just watching TV or I'm reading, or sometimes it's doing nothing. Like, I can honestly say, when I gave myself that permission, the universe responded with time to do everything. And it just works out so beautifully. Now, with all the hoopla I gave you guys, I do want to bring our shadow into this, because you can't just have light without darkness, and it's just not that fluffy no matter what you say. I want you guys to think about, how often do you feel guilty for resting? How often are you worried if you're relaxing and someone calls and say, hey, what are you doing? You say nothing. Are you going to be called lazy? That void that appears when the busyness is gone. Because I felt it when I started to say, yeah, I'm not doing anything at this time. I heard it. I was called like, I wasn't called names. I was called lazy or must be nice. And it was actually. And I did not need the guilt, because I chose me. You see, healing looks like, or will look like to me, was journaling with my inner achiever, letting her express her fears and thanking her for letting me rest. So when I did get the calls and I was just lounging, I didn't have to feel guilty, because I allowed her to identify with, hey, what you're doing is actually going to save you in the long run. You're not going to be burnt out. You're not going to go to the doctor with stress and 20 other things that they're going to try and push a medication on you. No, you're going to sit there. You're going to appreciate it. And if someone say it must be nice to take a break, yeah, I scheduled it. You can too. Or I allowed it. Or just saying, yeah, I did. Thank you. It is really nice. I want you guys to understand that with all of this that I'm saying, that it's good to do this and rest, you are going to have that shadow self come up and say, but what if somebody judges? What if somebody says something? And it's going to happen. It's inevitable. And it's okay. You are choosing yourself. At the end of the day, the only person that could take care of you 110% is you. So while you worry and hear in the back of your head what they might say, I want you to say that's okay, because you're doing this for you. And for those of you that want some tools to get started, here are some for you. Try breath work. Yes, I've said this before on all my podcasts, and I say it all the time. You think you're breathing consciously. You're not, I promise you. Take a moment to stop and do a 4-7-8 breathe. Take 4 breaths, breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 7, and release for 8. If you stop releasing, or you're done releasing before 8, chances are you need to keep going until you can do it. So your nervous system and your body slows down. Replace trying to be busy or TV time with walks, baths, visualizations, relaxing, like breathe. And if your fear or your nervous system is hyper active around money thoughts, try some affirmations, try listening to some tones that's calming you and understanding that money is energy too. It's one of the lowest exchange of energy, but it's still an exchange. And if you are operating with scarcity and rush and franticness, it's going to reply the same way. And start saying no faster instead of saying yes. So if someone goes, hey, you want to go out, say no first. Or say, I'll think about it. And add some softness to yourself. Give yourself grace and play. I want to remind you guys, you don't need to earn everything you desire You simply need to become available for it. Sit with that. So, what was my whole ramble on about this episode? That real transformation wasn't strategy. It was safety. Once my body knew it was safe to start to rest, to receive, to exist without proving myself, I no longer had to earn what already belonged to me. Scarcity says, I must fight to have enough. Safety says, I'm already enough, and what's meant for me is on its way. And that doesn't mean quit your job and cut your hours. No, it means putting up the boundaries. It's reminding you to feel safe in what you're doing and reminding yourself that you are enough. Repeat this with me as I'm saying it or play it back. My body is safe. My being is worthy. My energy is enough. Repeat that until you believe that, because saying it one or two times and not believing it is not enough. From here on, when you start to believe that, you receive more, not by working harder, but by accepting that abundance is already circling you. You actually start to receive that. And abundance doesn't have to be a dollar amount. It doesn't have to just suffice to money. It could be so much more things. Being healthy, being alive, being aware, taking it easy, enjoying the quietness and the slowness. That's abundant too. So I know this one episode is not going to unravel a lifetime worth of patterns, but I think it's going to start loosening them at least. And if this stirred something inside of you, you're not alone. Clearly, I'm sharing it too. You're not dismantled as the system taught you were. You're not the person that must earn love through sacrifice. No, you are worthy of every good thing in life. This is your invitation to rest, receive, repattern, and rebuild from being, not doing. If you do want deeper support, I offer one on one coaching. I'd love to hear your comments, thoughts, anything of the above. Reach out. And until next time, may you be receiving in your divine and never question your self worth again.